right, well, I think we'll go ahead and get started just to be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your afternoon to listen and learn a little bit about what has taken place over the last semester with CAPS and CAPS Edu. First, I just want to thank you for coming. And I also want to just give a few shout outs to the Cedar Falls administration, the school board for making this program possible. I also want to thank our partners in education, UNI, Department of Teaching, Rod Library. They've kind of taken us under their wing this past winter. So I want to make sure that they are thanked. And also our mentor teachers. As you're going to see, these associates have been out in the schools, out in the community, working with great mentor teachers. And without them, this program would just not be possible. So I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge them. A little bit about the semester. So as everybody has been saying, this has been a challenging and unique semester in pivoting, learning flexibility, adaptability, and I think the associates have really gained those skills, especially this semester. We've had 7 associates this afternoon session for this fall semester. They've been in 2 school systems, so we worked in person with Cedar Falls schools and then online with the Cedar Falls virtual campus. They've had 3 placements, like 3 weeks each, and they get those 3 lessons. So similar as in the years past, just looks a little different with COVID and COVID precautions. We've had 17 mentor teachers. We've been in 7 different schools, and as the same as years past, they've logged about 75 plus hours working with kids, whether that's in their virtual Zoom rooms like we're doing right now, or in placements in their classrooms. A little bit of spoiler alert, they're going to tell you where they're interested or where they're headed. And about 4 of the 7 are planning on going into education, so yay. 3 out of the 7 are attending UNI, either in education or another program. And then 3 out of the 7 also added UNI to their list after their CAPS experience to their future college, which is great. A little bit about today, and then I'm going to turn it over to them. They're going to share a little bit about their placements, their lessons taught, lessons learned. They're going to talk a little bit about their CAPS experience and those cornerstones. And then they're going to talk about their future outlook and where they're headed. We've done a lot more work with projects, much more CAPS centered with the project space. So you're going to hear a lot about that. And if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and put that in the chat and I'll monitor that. And I can ask them their questions after their presentation. So feel free to interact. If you want to unmute, that's great too. We'll try and get through all of the presentations in this hour because we have a lot of things to share and I want to make sure we have time to get to everybody. All right, with that, I think we'll get started. Let me share. Oops. There we go. Okay. All right, Carly is going to kick us off. I get the benefit of having Carly again for CAPS Edu 2, which is exciting. And she's going to share a little bit about her experience with CAPS. All right.
Hi everybody, my name is Carly Patterson. I'm currently a Cedar Falls CAPS Edu associate and I'm a senior in high school. So over my CAPS experience, my first placement kicked off with Mrs. Bellows. It was a virtual placement with Mrs. Bellows' virtual 4th grade classroom. And over the placement, I really learned a lot about Bitmoji classrooms, both making a reward system of Bitmoji classrooms for the students and then ultimately making a lesson and teaching the students how to create Bitmoji classrooms. Over this process, what I learned is that students really have a quick excitement rate to learn. They're at that ripe age in 4th grade when everything is so exciting about school and school's a lot of fun. You get to hang out with your friends and you get to learn new things that you've never heard about, whether it was getting to know words that they had never known, learning new science words, or learning how to create the Bitmoji classrooms. They just were so excited about it and it really made me excited to be there as well. I also learned that there's an extremely quick improvement rate. They, in the time I was there, I met with them both on the first and the last day of my placement, and I listened to them read both times through individual conferences. And in the short 3 weeks that I was there, their rate and comprehension just had such a great improvement rate, and they all had made great strides in just a short time. So I am eager to watch what it would be like over a longer period of time. In addition, I also just really like watching students learn. The moment when they get that, aha, I understand, or I did it, look, it just brings me a lot of joy and proudness myself. So on to my second placement. Second placement was in a 7th grade classroom with a teacher named Mrs. Benitez. And we worked on the outsider character essays where they had to prove whether or not the character stayed the same or changed over the course of the novel. And they also went over a Christmas Carol speeches to talk about the theme and how it connects to both their life and society as a whole. So overall, what I learned is that I really love the content area. I had a lot of fun working with kids on how to analyze and look at both the bigger picture and zoom into the small details. And I also enjoyed helping them put together their speeches. I also learned that 7th graders have a lot of energy. They definitely are a very active group and they keep you on your toes. And while that was super fun to be in for a little bit, I think I'd rather go to the older age group because I'd rather try to work on creating energy than toning it down. So one of my first projects that I did in CAPS by myself was the FCS food video. For my second placement, originally I was supposed to go into an FCS classroom at Pete, but instead the weekend before my placement, I ended up getting called that I needed to go take a COVID test and I ended up getting confirmed positive. So my placement teacher and I took a turn and decided to make a video about FCS to show the 8th graders all the different classes. Previously, she had just went over a slideshow presentation, but a lot of the students didn't think that was super exciting and it didn't really drum up a lot of interest. So a lot of them didn't continue to take FCS. So I put together a bunch of pictures, videos, and audio voiceovers of the different projects and content that the courses went over. And overall, what I learned a lot about video editing skills. I learned how to put together pictures in order to make the time sensible for each, and also how to do more audio stuff, such as doing voiceovers along with music and changing the volume so it's appropriate at different times. I also learned a lot about communicating while distant. Obviously, while I was at home, the only way to communicate was through Zoom, emails, or our app called GroupMe. And I learned a lot about how important it is to update people on your progress, or even just to tell Megan how I was feeling that day. And finally, what I learned from this placement is flexibility. Obviously, it was not originally what we had intended, but we ended up being able to be flexible and turn into a project that I'm actually really proud of and I'm happy I got to do. Another project that I worked on was the Legacy Project, where I Zoomed with a Western home resident about once a week, and I honestly consider this was one of my favorite things that I did in CAPS. I learned a lot of things from my residents, but one of the ones that I really take to heart is to take things one day at a time. I know my resident was going through a super tough time, and her motto was to always just go one day at a time, focus on what you can for that day, and at the end of the day, that's okay. There's always another day. I also learned that we need to look back and learn from our mistakes because it's okay to make them, but you don't necessarily want to repeat them. So you always want to look back, think about what you could have done better, and take that with you moving forward. And finally, I learned about the importance of relationships around us. My Western home resident obviously could not see most of her family during the holidays, and I know it really hurt her. And so I realized that I need to take the relationships around me super seriously and realize how important they are, because at the end of the day, what we have is the people around us, no matter what. So overall, I think I had a really positive CAPS Edu experience, and that's actually why I'm wanting to take a second semester. I learned a lot of professional skills, such as communicating and how to represent myself as a professional, because obviously at the age of 17, we're put into projects with real clients and real projects, and not a lot of us have ever done that before. And sometimes people, they look at you and they're like, oh, well, you're young, so maybe I won't take you as seriously. But it's super important, and I learned how to carry myself not as a high schooler, but as a professional in the education field. Additionally, I learned a lot about career exploration. While I'm not 100% positive on what I want to go into now, I have a couple ideas where I didn't before, and I look forward to continuing my career exploration. I learned a lot about problem solving through the multiple projects that we did. And I noticed that a lot of times hiccups in the road start and you just have to be able to think quickly on your feet and come up with a solution to fix the problem. And I learned a lot about innovation, such as creating new ideas that go outside of the box with projects such as our design sprint, where we had to figure out what to do with an old bus. And my team actually decided to come up with a cafe for it. My future plans are to attend the University of Northern Iowa next fall, and my possible majors that I'm thinking about at the moment are secondary English education, primary education, or maybe being a school counselor. I just look forward to exploring these career fields. Are there any questions?
No, maybe there is one. No? Okay. All right, thanks, Carly. We're gonna get started with Kathleen in 1 second. All right. Oops. And then if you could make sure you are on mute, that would be great, just so that we don't have that background noise. Thanks, Terry. All right, Kathleen.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Duggan, and today I will be presenting to you my CAPS Education final presentation. So over CAPS, we got the opportunity to go into actual classrooms and have that experience. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we had our first placement over Zoom. So I was with a kindergarten virtual classroom with Mrs. Trees, and I spent the afternoons in small groups for about 3 weeks. What I learned from this placement was that Zoom with kindergartners is very challenging. They are restless as is, so having them over Zoom was a little bit harder than I expected. And COVID made us adapt very quickly, and it was very important to adapt. Also, teachers, they deserve a lot more respect because teaching over Zoom is a lot harder than I thought it would be. For my second placement, I was with Lincoln Elementary second graders with Mrs. Lindgren. I had 25 second graders and I taught there for 3 weeks. What I learned from this placement was that second graders like to fidget with their masks, so we definitely had to keep reminding them to keep that on just to stay safe in the classroom. I also started to connect with the students a lot more just because I was in the classroom and not over Zoom, but I also did need to work on stepping outside of my comfort zone a lot more, and I realized that in my third placement. I was with Southdale Elementary second graders with Mrs. Bergman. I had 25 kids as well, and I taught there for 2 weeks. What I learned from this placement was that I love being around kids, and second graders are a lot of fun, and they have so much personality, and they just made my day. Even if like I had a really bad day, I would love going in there. I started going towards the right path to finding my purpose for sure. In the beginning of CAPS, I really thought, I really don't want to be a teacher. I just want this opportunity to work with kids because I know I want to work with kids. But since I was in this placement, I really thought, teaching could be for me. Aside from our placements, we had other CAPS opportunities. We had Awareness to Action, a lap bag project, Trunk or Treat, CAPS Education logo that we made, and Legacy project. My favorite by far was the Legacy project. Every Wednesday, we would meet with a Western Home resident and we would read articles each week just to have conversation starters, to answer these questions. And I definitely made my own connections with my resident. What I learned from this project was that my resident had amazing stories and I could honestly sit there and talk to her all day. And I also learned that stereotypes put on the older generation are by far not true. And we definitely talked a lot about those and we connected really easily just with simple things from our hobbies to what we want to do in life. Overall, my CAPS experience was really amazing. Like I said before, I really didn't think that I would want to be a teacher at all. I was kind of like, I'll just do CAPS to see how it goes. But I really think that it made me a better speaker and definitely more confident like I have here. COVID definitely made things a little difficult, but we adapted very quickly, and real world experience is very, very important. Throughout high school, we definitely don't get any real world experience. So having the opportunity in CAPS helped me go towards my finding my purpose. I definitely learned to be confident and that it's okay to step outside of my comfort zone. Before CAPS, I was really shy and didn't do any of those things, but CAPS definitely made me realize I am confident and I can do those things. The 4 cornerstones of CAPS are innovation, problem solving, career exploration, and professional skills. I learned the most about career exploration just because you can learn what you enjoy, and getting that real world experience helps so much. I also learned that most about professional skills. I learned that it's very important and useful, from communicating to professional dress, knowing how to just present yourself, and that I will use them forever. In the beginning of CAPS, I kind of thought, it's kind of silly that we have to dress up every afternoon for this class, but it became routine for me, and I enjoyed dressing up professionally just because it made me feel more professional and like I was supposed to be there and be a professional. So my future is I will be attending the University of Iowa with an open major my first year. Like I said before, I don't know if I will be a teacher, but it's definitely one of my options right now. I will definitely be working with kids though. Thank you for listening. Do you have any questions?
That's awesome. Great. All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
Kathleen. Yes. Michaela, you're up. There we go.
Hi, my name is Michaela Kinder. I'm a junior and a CAPS associate. Some of the questions I have found answers to through my journey in CAPS is I definitely want to be a teacher. I went into this thinking, oh, teaching could be fun, but not certain. But being in placements and getting to know my CAPS team, I'm like, yes, teaching is my calling. That is what I feel in my soul. I also learned that teaching is not a straight and narrow road. I sort of knew this because my mom is a teacher at Kittrell and Waterloo. And so she would have days where she would love it and then days where she was like, why? So I went into thinking but actually being in the experience, it definitely proved that to me. And then I also know that I want to teach the middle school or elementary level. I feel like that's a good age group of kids, but I'm not entirely sure which one yet. So my first placement was on the virtual campus in Cedar Falls. I worked with 6th grade with Mr. Carney. Virtual campus was a little bit of a struggle at first just because I wasn't feeling like I was getting there. I wasn't connecting with kids. I was having trouble learning things. But overall, it made me learn that even though I have struggles and things are hard, there's always a way, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. There's always a way for me to figure things out. So it was a good experience for me to be oh, one step back, take a breath, and then hit hard. And it really helped that Mr. Carney was my first placement teacher on virtual campus because he was so open-minded. If I had a struggle day, he was okay, it's okay. We don't have to work on anything right now. Just breathe and come back to it. I'm always here for questions. So even though the struggle was real at the first, it really helped to have him there and be oh, I can do this. My second placement was at Pete Junior High. I worked with 7th, 8th, and 9th graders in the special education. I loved being at Pete. It was a really good like mix of kids. Like I was really worried like, oh, there's 9th graders. They're gonna see me as like one of their peers because I'm still a high schooler. It did not turn out like that. All of them were very respectful. They were like, oh, okay. They were able to put those bonds where, yes, I am in their age group, but I am student teaching. Like I'm trying to better my education. So they were very open about that, but also being my friend. It also proved to me that I need to be in person in order to get things done to my liking. It's just better because I'm a very hands-on learner. I prefer to be like in there around people than like in my own little bubble. But P Junior High was very a good fit for me. I loved it so much, and the teacher was amazing. My third placement was at Lincoln with Mrs. Davis' class. She taught special education. She had 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. I loved being at Lincoln. Like I didn't think being with elementary kids I would really like it, but there's this group of kids. They were very sweet and caring, and they always like. To me, there's this one kid that I worked with. He always like was like a grandpa of the group. Like he was like, see that you're struggling, and he'd be like, hey, take a breath. You're okay. And it made my heart like smile. Like I'm like, yes, thank you. Like you're a 4th grader, and I love it. I made so many bonds this week, and I was only there for 2 weeks. And yeah, I never wanted to leave. One of the projects I had for our task was create a new logo for the CAPS Instagram page and their social medias. I worked with my group, and I loved my group because we were able to go home, work on our own like design the way we wanted it, and then come back, regroup, and make a design that included everybody's ideas and opinions. I learned that you have to have open communication in a group, and it's okay if like you don't get picked for all your stuff, like for like let's say like you wanted this design but nobody wanted that design. It's okay, like just stay open-minded and try to help a different way. I loved my group. Like even though I'm a junior and a senior class with mainly seniors in my class, I felt like very like intelligent and like, yes, I can do this. I may be younger, but my opinion still matters. What CAPS has given me, I have really learned how to like get beyond my comfort zone, and I've like finding my field of education because I went into CAPS thinking I want to do U.S. history, like that is what I want to teach. Doing CAPS, I am now looking towards the special education fields just because I like working with those kids better and just branching out, seeing how their minds work compared to other students. And then getting myself out of my comfort zone, I get into like a little bubble where I just kind of like, this is how it's done, so let's stick this way. And CAPS has really like blown my mind. Like I can push myself a little bit further and not stick at that, it's okay range. I can go above and beyond. Some of my strengths that CAPS has definitely proved to me that I have is I'm very hardworking when it comes to group and independent work. Like I like to have things done on a deadline or at least organized to the point where it'd be on the deadline. I'm very passionate about teaching. Like this is like I said, like it's my calling. I'm very passionate in everything I do. I'm very organized and flexible as long as the communication is open. And then my communication skills, I feel like have gotten so much better via Zoom, GroupMe, email, all that stuff. My future plans, I will be attending Hawkeye Community College in the fall of 22-23 to get my gen eds out of the way, and then transfer to UNI to study elementary education with a minor in special education. Thank you. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. And well, I just really liked your discussion about Lincoln, and disclaimer, I worked at Lincoln and I love the place. It's in my neighborhood. But what I liked about what you said is you sort of discovered the essence of a really important characteristic or qualitative thing about teaching, and that is the connections. And you talked about those connections because believe me, dear, those connections are that's I would say 80% of the teaching profession with the people you're working with. I know it had transfers to other places if you went to other jobs, but the connections in school are the key. So I just wanted to say, I really, it was great to hear you mention that. And I can tell you had a passion for it. Way to go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. All right, we'll have Jill up.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Jill Kessner. If you haven't maybe guessed already, I'm going to give you my CAPS Education final presentation, just like the past 3 people. So as I said, I'm Jill Kessner. I'm a senior at Cedar Falls High School, and I'm also a CAPS Education Associate. So I'm super excited to share my experiences with you today. So first off, the way that we kind of start out CAPS is by finding out some of our strengths. And for me, my top 3 strengths included social intelligence, honesty, and leadership. And some of the ways that I found that those worked in the classroom would be understanding classroom and peer-to-peer dynamics was a really big one, in understanding how, you know, kids can work with each other, and understanding kind of even the social hierarchy of, you know, different kids and all that. And then also with honesty, I think having difficult conversations are also very important to have as a teacher. You know, if you're ever having a kid that is struggling in your class, and being able to say, hey, I really think that we need to work on this, and being able to do it in a way that comes across as being honest and not being mean or rude. I think that that's really important. And then also leadership. I think it's really important to encourage students to do their best, and really important to kind of get everybody on the same page. And it takes a lot of leadership to do that. So for my placements, I did 3. My first one was with 9th grade United States history, and it was online with Mr. Josty. Now I got to do or observe both regular and honors history for this age group. And I found out that I really liked the age group, but teaching online is so difficult. I really couldn't form relationships with any of the students, and that was really hard, especially because for junior high, there only had in-person class, or well, over Zoom, 1 day a week. And so that was really difficult for me to even get to know them. And, but I really did find out that teaching history is something I enjoy. I got to teach about the Mexican-American War, and it was something that I just really fell in love with right away, and being able to do the activity and help them understand kind of that time period. My second placement was with Holmes 9th grade, and it was also a US history class, and I was with Mr. Keeker. So I definitely enjoy teaching in person a whole lot better than teaching online. I could actually form relationships with the students, and I still really enjoy that age group. They were awesome. It was a great class to have. And I also found out that I actually really enjoy planning and designing lessons. One thing that I didn't really get to do online because it was already so structured out, and we only had 1 day of class. And so the teacher just had to really make that day count. And so I wasn't really able to put together my own lesson and do that. So it was really fun to be able to plan and design a lesson for these 9th graders. And I think they ended up really enjoying it. So I was really proud of that. And I thought I had a lot of fun. And I think they really enjoyed it as well. My last placement was with Mr. Switzer over at Southdale. I was with 6th graders. Some things that I learned: elementary is maybe not the move for me. So while I enjoyed the kids, it was just, I don't think I would enjoy putting together all of the different lessons and teaching all of the subjects. That may just be a little bit much for me. I wouldn't really enjoy it as much. I was with them during their unit where they were reading and writing fantasy. And that kind of gave me a little bit of an idea of the fact that English is maybe also not for me. It was, while the kids were very fun to work with, and you know, they were working a lot on comprehension, walking through with them and, you know, discussing book after book after book was not really my most ideal way to spend the afternoon teaching. And so I think doing a lot more social studies and history things was really more for me. I enjoyed those placements a lot more. So we also did some projects in CAPS. The one that was one of my favorites was the lap bag project. We made weighted lap bags for kindergartners. One of the things that I think is really awesome is we're starting to have a little bit more emphasis on social emotional learning. And I'm really excited to see how that works out within the longer time of things. And so it was really awesome. We got to take them over to the kindergartners and see their excited faces. They were super excited to get them, and we were super excited to get to do it for them. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed working with my teammates on that, and it was just a really great time. So overall, my whole CAPS experience, in the future, I definitely think that it helped me kind of narrow down what I wanted to do. So some of the things that it helped me with were definitely professional skills and knowing what I want to do, and then also building relationships with mentor teachers. I wouldn't have decided on teaching right away yet before I go to college without this. And so I think that it really gave me a step ahead in the right direction. And of course, all the teachers that I worked with are super awesome. And having those mentor teachers to be able to, call upon and say, hey, I need some help with something, or some of that kind of things. I think that is really valuable and really important. And I'm super excited to work with them in the future. So as far as my future career path goes, my plan is to study secondary social studies education in college. Right now, my top choice is Illinois State. Sorry to all the UNI people out there. And I want to teach middle or high school students. I'm not really sure where right now, but I'm really excited to teach that age group and get to work more with them and learn more about history on the way, and teach more about history and social studies. So thank you. Do we have any questions?
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
I just love it to hear people say that they really enjoyed their, like, kind of the middle school experience a little bit, because sometimes middle school kids, everybody thinks like it's just a horrible, terrible thing. But I taught middle school, junior high for 25 years, and the excitement and the growth that takes place there is just so much fun to watch. Not that it's not fun to watch that growth in elementary school, but in junior high, those 3 years, or middle school, when you watch those kids grow up for 3 years, it's pretty amazing because they're physiologically growing and intellectually. So you get to see them get larger in a couple ways, So I was really happy to hear you say that about that. Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jill. All right, JD. Oh, I don't know why it went there. Sorry.
Okay. Hi, I'm JD Kroger, and I am a junior at Cedar Falls High School. For my first placement was online with Mr. Williams, and I taught 7th, 8th, and 9th grade special ed at Peak Junior High. I learned that I definitely have to have a lot more patience because it was a small class and it was online. It was kind of hard to get connections with the students, and it was also hard to actually find times to teach and be a part of the class because they never showed up. I also had to have a lot of patience with my students because it was a special education class, so I definitely had to work with them until they understood what they were getting help for. For my second placement, I taught 5th grade at Aldridge Elementary School, and I taught with Mrs. Aldrich. And this placement helped me learn that teaching is definitely something I could possibly consider doing. I looked forward to teaching every day, and I always felt better while I was teaching, which definitely helped me consider teaching. I came into this class not thinking I wanted to be a teacher, but this placement really helped me think that this could possibly be something I want to do after I graduate. So I didn't do a third placement, but I did do a project with Miss Breyer. She's a sexual assault advocate, and My job was basically to find contact information for all of the elementary, middle, and high schools in Black Hawk County and in Bremer County. So that took a while, but I was really glad to help her so she could reach out to them and have an opportunity to help anybody that needed help. I also had a career meeting with Michelle Faith. She's a social worker, and we had about a 45-minute meeting. And this really proved to me about what I thought about social work. I have been considering social work for a long time, and this helped me know that this is definitely the route that I want to go on after I graduate. We also did a lot of different projects. Me, Karen, and Catherine did a diversity project. Our job was to create an acronym and a logo and to help shed light on needed diversity in the education system. We created 2 acronyms and 2 logos. The first acronym was MIRE, which stands for Minoritized Individuals Represented Among Educators. And the second one was NASD, which stands for Nurturing and Advocating for Success in Diverse Individuals. Karen and Catherine also have made changes to the logos and acronyms after we shared this presentation a few weeks ago, but I was not completely part of that process. So my career path is that I'm currently a junior, so I still have to do my senior year. But after I graduate, I am planning to go and get a social work degree and hopefully get a master's degree. And I'm not really sure what college I want to go to. But no offense to people and you and I, but I need to go somewhere outside of Cedar Falls because I do not like it here. So with this experience, it helped me decide that social working is something that I'm very passionate about, and it's something that I need to do when I graduate. This also helped me just understand kids in general and help me with my patients, which will help me a lot in the social work field. And lastly, I learned how to work with others better and how to share my ideas and just be more confident in myself as a person. Any questions?
All right, thanks, JD. All right, we have 2 left, Karen and Catherine. Oh. Sorry, I don't know why it went there. There we go.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Yasuda. I'm a senior at Cedar Falls High School, and this is my CAPS education experience. Coming into CAPS, I had a few questions for myself was, did I enjoy teaching younger or older kids? And if I would find out a different passion that I enjoyed more than teaching. So my first placement was at Mrs. Lewinsky's online 8th grade physical science class. So 8th graders was considered in my comfort zone. I did a lesson on kinetic and potential energy with them. The things I learned during this placement was that in an online setting, you have to be very assertive as to make sure you know where the students are. Me and Mrs. Lewinsky and I had a lot of trouble trying to get the students to engage in activities so we knew where they stood within this lesson, which also came with the bracing awkwardness because there was a lot of quietness within the Zooms we had. So this also went into keeping them engaged so that they wouldn't be so quiet and would actually respond to our questions. And like I said, so we knew where we were within understanding this process. My second placement was shortened due to COVID, was at Hanson Elementary with Mrs. Trusheim's art class. I mainly worked with first graders and kindergartners, which was out of my comfort zone,
I'm an only child, so I don't have a lot of experience with younger kids, but things I learned from this placement is that younger kids like first graders and kindergartens fill up a lot of time because they just want to continue talking to and socializing. However, this is also a con because they just keep talking, which was a struggle in keeping them in line and making them know when to talk and when not to talk. So instead of a third placement, I was quarantined and I did a diversity project with Catherine and JD. Our main goal was to make a logo and an acronym to spread diversity within the education system. The name that was chosen was MIRE, which we modified the name to Minoritized Individuals Revered Among Educators. To your right, you can see that these are the two finalized logos we have made. We have not gotten the final verdict on which one was chosen. So also during this time, I did a couple of career interest interviews, one of them being with Tara Eastep, the Executive Director of Enrichment and Special Programs, another one being with Courtney Alber, a play therapist, Nikki Pauley, a play therapist supervisor, and then Heather Marquez, who works for Action Coach. The advice I gained from all these people was having guidance is something you'll always need in any career you want to go in. Volunteering and getting that work experience is very important. Your mental health, especially as a therapist, is very important to work on in college. It's highly recommended that you get counseling while going through this career. And knowing your goal at the end to keep you motivated is also very important. So my future plans are that I have been accepted into UNI. I plan on double majoring in criminology and business management. Current plan is to stay at UNI for about 2 years and then move to Arizona State University. What I've learned about myself from CAPS is that my strengths are that I'm very detail oriented and I like to stay honest. I would also like people to be honest with me so that I know exactly what I need to change and how to improve that. My weakness is definitely I have stayed inside my comfort zone during this time. My first two placements are definitely in my comfort zone because I've never dealt with children. And public speaking is not a big strength that I have, and I want to continue to improve it, but that's also not in my comfort zone. So what I've improved in the virtues and CAPS and what I've learned is that innovation, I found it very fun to work with the group project to find out to find something that you're all passionate about. I've had multiple projects with people that we're all very passionate about and we got things done in an orderly fashion and I enjoyed it all the way through. My professional skills are something I will use every day due to CAPS that I've learned. I also plan on furthering this skill in CAPS business next semester. I learned how to problem solve and that being flexible is just the best thing for everyone. We never know what's going to happen in the future, and it's just best that no one sticks to one strict plan. Career exploration was something I really tried to expand on during this CAPS experience. I found out that teaching was just not my calling, and in the meantime, I was able to find out about other careers that I was possibly interested in. So the questions coming into this CAPS experience was, do I like teaching younger or older kids? And like I mentioned, teaching just wasn't my calling. And it wasn't that I don't like kids, it's just not something it's something I prefer to work out of. And I did find a different passion throughout this program. Sorry. Like I said, I want to double major in criminology and business management. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Hey, I thought your public speaking in this presentation was okay. It was pretty good. Hey, you know what else I like? What else I like was, hold on, I wrote notes, so I got to put my reading glasses on. Oh, I know. So I liked it that you kind of had the different parts of the continuum where you had the kindergartners, because I subbed in kindergarten for a while and I'd never worked there before. And you are absolutely correct about the talking and wanting to interact with you. I've never had so many students in my life that needed Band-Aids. Once I handed out the first Band-Aid, there was a line of about 10 kids with needed banding. But at any rate, my point was you got kind of the both ends of the, you got the kindergartners that want to interact with you constantly, but then you discovered in the Zoom meetings with students, I think, if I followed that correctly, that sometimes there was absolute silence. Nobody unmuted, right? Mm-hmm. So, I like that thing that you put, and I'm probably behind the times on this because it probably already exists, but I would like to get a t-shirt made that says, embrace the awkwardness. I love that. Yeah. Okay, there you go.
Thank you. All right, Karen. And last but not least, we have Catherine. There we go.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. Like Megan said, my name is Catherine Lawson, and I remember at the very beginning of the semester when our instructor, Megan, told us to create an email signature, and we were supposed to include a quote about teaching in our signature. And I ended up choosing the quote, "To teach others is to teach yourself." And over the past 16 weeks, I have had the absolutely wonderful opportunity to discover what that quote really means in the CAPS Edu setting. So I'm super excited to share my final presentation with you today and my CAPS Edu journey. So my first and second placement was on the Cedar Falls virtual campus, and I was with Miss Colehouse's 5th grade class, and I ended up actually staying with this class for about 5.5 weeks. I was with them for 3 weeks for my first placement, and then 2.5 more when I ended up getting quarantined during my second placement. And throughout those 5.5 weeks, I mainly focused on teaching social studies and math, 2 things that were definitely out of my comfort zone, but it was a great change of pace. So what I took away from this experience is to just embrace the change. I think we all know that 2020 was a very hectic year, full of both positive and negative growth and change. But it's not really until you take what you have in front of you and you decide to make the best of that, out of that situation that things really start to get better. And that goes along with having a growth mindset. In CAPS, they always tell us the way to succeed in this program is to just jump right in and to have that growth mindset and take whatever you're given and just do the best that you can. So these are just some photos of me teaching. Over on the left, I have some lesson planning and adaptation after I ended up getting quarantined. I had to change a couple things around. And then that bottom picture is probably one of my favorites because this was during a social studies Zoom lesson. And we were talking about the differences between a want and a necessity. And one of the rowdiest kids in the class ended up raising his hand. And so I kind of hesitantly called on him and I was like, "Oh, what do you think a necessity is?" And we had already covered the basics like food and water and shelter. But this kid ended up saying that love was a necessity. And I think after having a couple of rough weeks personally, hearing that from a 5th grader was just such a touching and moving moment. And I think it's moments like that that really made me fall in love with teaching over this experience. So my 3rd placement was at Lincoln Elementary here in Cedar Falls, and I was with Miss Dro's music class, and I was with kindergartners, 1st graders, and 2nd graders teaching elementary music. And I was only in this placement for about 1.5 weeks, but this was what I had been waiting the entire semester for. I was so excited to finally be teaching music, something that I've been really passionate about for the past 6 years. And so what I learned during this placement is that in-person and online teaching are 2 very different things. When you are in person and you have 25 kindergartners in one room who all are wearing masks, but they're supposed to be 6 feet apart, you learn how to manage a classroom very quickly. And you learn how to discipline the kids when they aren't listening and to how keep reign of all those little kiddos. And I also learned that I ended up loving being with the little kids. I came into this semester telling Megan that I only wanted to do music and I only wanted to be with the oldest kids in 9th grade. But I ended up working with all elementary kids throughout my entire journey. And they were amazing. They were so open and honest with their emotions, which I think is something I was really able to personally connect to. And then the final thing was kind of just igniting that passion for music education. I've been actively singing for 6 years now, and it is just such a wonderful feeling to wake up and know that you get to spread your love for music with a younger generation. And that was so much fun. So throughout CAPS, we got to do a lot of different projects. My personal favorite, though, was I was able to design several series of logos throughout CAPS. So this first one here, some of my earlier associates talked about, we had a diversity initiative that we had to come up with 2 acronyms and 2 logos for. So I took on the logos parts, and as you can see, there were phase 1 and phase 2 logos. So we started by originally presenting the 2 phase 1 logos, and then they gave us some critiques, and I went back and I ended up creating the 2 phase 2 logos. And throughout this project, I learned that it's okay to not be perfect on the first try. I am definitely the type of person that when I do something, I want to do it 100% correct the first time around. And I learned that's just not always possible. But oftentimes when you do go back and you take that constructive criticism, the end result is oftentimes much, much better than the original. And I also got to create a CAPS Edu logo for our strand. This is probably one of my favorites right here. Really early in the semester, I created that phase 1 logo with my team, and then we got some critiques, and we actually ended up taking the other team's logo. And just a couple weeks ago, I ended up redesigning it, putting it into a digital setting, and the final product was that phase 2 logo that you see down below. And I think we were really able to incorporate not only the 4 cornerstones of CAPS, but also some educational elements in there. So my CAPS experience overall, I got to improve on the 4 cornerstones of CAPS, and the professional skills. My communication was really fine-tuned between externally and internally communicating through Gmail and GroupMe, especially when quarantine, communication became so important. As far as problem solving goes, with those logos designs, I was always having to adapt and change things around to fulfill our clients' needs. So that took a lot of problem solving skills. With career exploration, like I said earlier, I left my comfort zone a lot this semester. I didn't really ever envision myself teaching social studies or math, especially to little kids, but it ended up being so much fun, and they taught me a lot about myself as well. And the last one, innovation. With COVID-19, I learned how to do distance learning and how to effectively and efficiently run a Zoom classroom. Reflecting on this experience, I rediscovered my love for music education, and I love my team so much. They have really been a constant pillar of support and love throughout this crazy year. And it's wonderful to not only call them my friends and associates now, but to call them my family. And my strengths as an associate is just being really positive. I like to go into a room and light it up with, a little bit of joy and happiness, because I think that makes everyone's day better. And I'm very passionate about what I do. Being able to wake up and knowing that I get to pursue my passion during the day is just something really important to me as an individual. And then my final strength is I'm just a very hardworking person. When you give me a project, I will work my hardest and do my best to reach that goal to the best of my abilities. So as far as my future plans go, right now I will be attending a 4-year university. I'm currently undecided on my school still, but I will most likely be double majoring in music education and theater performance, and I am really looking forward to it. Thank you all so much for coming again today. And at this time, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, I of course have a comment. I love your theme that you mentioned, the growth mindset, because I don't know. I just know you from the last couple minutes, but I can tell that's kind of a theme for you, and that's one thing about being a teacher. You'll find out when you've been a teacher for a while that your ability to learn is so much greater than, when you were younger before you were teaching. I digress a little bit, but I love your theme, that growth mindset, because I could tell your experience with Mrs. Drow at Lincoln in music, because that's not an easy class to teach. It isn't. It's not. And you teach everybody in the building. So, but I like that you didn't lament it. You weren't lamenting it. but you embraced it. And I could tell that's kind of part of your character, and that's going to work out great for you.
Thank
Yep.
you so much.
Yep.
Anything holding you back from deciding on a college?
Right now with college stuff, it's just waiting for decisions. So like right now I've been accepted into Luther and I would go there for music ed and theater, but there are a couple colleges that don't come out until March. So kind of waiting on that, but we shall see.
Okay. All right, thanks.
So this is
you.
Nate. I asked that question. Can she still hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you. What is holding me back? Oh,
So
just
so I
waiting for
asked that
those
question,
decisions.
but you should have stated that more in your presentation of what is holding you back, why you haven't decided yet, because that's very
Okay.
important. You're trying to see what financial aid's coming through, what other things need to be made. So you should remember to include that. Not that you're
Okay,
getting this
thank you.
again, but that's something to think about for the future.
Awesome.
All right. I think that is everybody. Let's get this. Well, thank you again for joining us this afternoon. Hopefully you got a good taste of what CAPS education is all about. And we're really glad for you to be here and listen. Any other questions or comments?
I have a quick comment. This is Ethan. Guys, that was amazing. I just loved hearing your guys' journeys and everything that you were a part of with the program. Kudos to Megan for providing these opportunities and working through a very challenging semester. And to Mrs. Estep, who's also on this call. Because of their leadership, we were able to provide more in-person opportunities and keep giving you guys those experiences that you need to help you make those decisions as you're moving forward. Really excited for all of you. And to be honest, completely blown away with how well your presentations were and how passionate you are about the things you're getting involved with. So great job. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you.
I have to say, I kind of worried about it, how things are going to go for the CAPS education thing, but you had a good captain. Way to go, Megan. Good job.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who brought in the hippie? Who let the hippie in here?
It's, I'll tell you what, though, I'm outdoors a lot, and it's like I have an extra stocking cap. It'll go away this summer when it gets warmer, but right now I'm kind of digging it. It's sort of fun. Yeah.
Good to see you, Jim.
Yeah, nice to see you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I think we'll end then. We've just made our time. So thank you again. We'll see you next time.